Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe. Jeff Francoeur here with Pure Athlete. Before we get to today's guest, I want to share with everyone that we have our first partnership with Booster. Now, Booster is the high school sports #1 athletic fundraising for teams and groups. And their owner and CEO is a good buddy of mine. Go to church with him and a great guy. And instead of me telling you what it is, I'm going to bring him on. So Chris Carneal, thanks for joining us.
Jeff, thanks so much. So excited to sponsor Pure Athlete. Love your message, love your vision, love the heart and the values behind it. I'm a former college athlete. I'm a coach of my boys and my daughters as well, basketball and baseball. And our company I started 20 years ago, we work with schools, K through 12, and we serve them by raising funds. The past 20 years, we've raised schools, teams, and groups over $600 million, and we want to continue to serve more schools. So if you're interested in hearing how we can come to your sports team, your school, or your group, choosebooster.com.
Again, go to choosebooster.com. Chris, thanks for being a part of this. A big supporter of youth athletics, high school athletics, and we're looking forward to a good partnership with you, man.
Absolutely. Love what you guys are doing. Look forward to serving and helping schools raise funds.
Welcome to the Pure Athlete Show. We're excited for you to be here with us today. I'm Britt Lee. This is Brad Williams. And Brad, you know, when we do these shows, we have guests that come on and tell their youth sports story, and in the hopes that it will both inform and inspire our audience. And boy, I can't think of a better guest who has a more inspiring story than the one we have today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah, today we have Bailey Moody, who I've known since the 4th grade, and really one of my favorite people that I've ever gotten to meet and follow her journey. And I'll just give you a little bit of background on her before we welcome in here. But she's a current member of the U.S. Women's National Wheelchair Basketball Team. I believe she's a sophomore wheelchair basketball player at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And I don't want to take still too much of her thunder because her story, I want her to tell it herself. But I can't wait to hear more from her and ask her a bunch of questions.
Well, so let's not wait any longer. Why don't you bring her in? Hey, Bailey.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Bailey. Welcome to the Pure Athlete Show. We're so excited to have you. We know you've got a really busy schedule, and we're tickled to death that you're able to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
As Brad said, we're super excited for our audience to hear your story. And Bailey, before we get to your story, one of the ways we kind of like to open up with every guest is to ask you to just share with us your highlight moment of your youth sports career. So if you can think about that for a second, maybe tell us what's the biggest moment that comes to mind.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a pretty standout favorite moment, I guess, but I was at the Paralympics in 2022, beginning of last school year, around September, and in my first Paralympics going in, and we ended up actually winning a bronze medal. So I think that my favorite moment would have been that feeling in that game against Germany, knowing that we were going to win, and then winning that and coming home with some hardware. So it's hard. That's hard to top. Only can be topped with a silver or gold. So
that's tough to beat. So where do you keep your medal, Bailey?
In a safe under my bed.
Back in Johns Creek or in Tuscaloosa?
Right now it's in Johns Creek, but it's in a safe wherever it is normally.
Okay. Do you take it to parties? Do you wear it around your neck when you go to dinner parties or get-togethers, or you kind of just keep it there? I would. I'd be wearing it right now if I was you. Yes.
I mean, it got brought around for a little bit just so that everybody could see it and for interviews and stuff. But other than that, it's kind of been in the safe under my bed for a while now. So that's
I think, Britt, I don't know if you knew this, but Bailey was the youngest member of that Paralympic team.
No, I didn't.
I wasn't the youngest member of that team. I was the second youngest member of that team.
Okay, second youngest member.
So they named the team in 2020. And in 2020, I was the youngest member of that team, but by 2022, I was no longer the youngest member of that team.
Gotcha.
You were,
So
you
by
were
the time by 2021. So by 2021, by the time we actually went. Yeah.
you were a seasoned veteran by then.
Season. That's right. That's
How,
me.
how did you hear, like, how did they notify you? Like, tell us a little bit about kind of like where you were, or how'd you kind of realize, I think I've made this Olympic team?
I think you never really know for sure, especially when you're at a tryout, especially the first Paralympic tryout. I had no idea. I really didn't know who was going to make the team. I always feel like I'm on the bubble, and people sometimes will give me a hard time about that, but I just feel like when you're at a tryout, you really always have that little voice. It's like, well, maybe it's not me. Like maybe they won't say my name. But nonetheless, it's very exciting when you actually hear your name called for that roster spot.
So did you get the number you wanted? Were you 43?
43 all the way forever.
Awesome. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Well, Bailey, if you don't mind, because I want you to do it, I can't do it justice. Can you kind of give us, really tell us a little bit of the story of your journey, how it started in fourth grade and kind of leading up into where we are today?
Yeah. So at 10 years old, and pretty much my whole life have been very, very sports oriented. I love just being active, being outside. Literally have played every single sport under the sun and tried it all. But at 10, that was just my life was sports. I was doing everything at the time. I was playing basketball, I was playing tennis, I was playing softball, I was doing a jump rope club. I was doing everything. And then I started to have some pretty severe pain in my knee, and it was inhibiting my athletics. It was getting in the way of just me sleeping at night. So eventually, after scans and doctors and a biopsy, we had a diagnosis of a rare form of bone cancer called osteosarcoma. And so as a 10-year-old, only old people get cancer. Like I had no idea what I was in for. And I remember one of the first questions that I asked my parents was, will I ever get to play basketball again? And they said, I don't know. Like we need to focus on fighting this cancer and we'll figure that out. And so, throughout starting treatment, starting chemotherapy and trying to figure out, what surgical option to choose, my mind was always set on getting back to playing sports and specifically getting back to playing basketball. So that was the goal throughout everything. My treatment lasted about a year. And after that, my whole focus was on getting back to playing basketball. I had my amputation in June of 2012, and then by December of that same year, I was walking the ball up and down the basketball court, trying to get back into it. So it's been a road of really, really long and hard work, but it's been the goal from the beginning.
Can you tell us a little bit about, you had to choose between what kind of procedure you wanted to have, and did you choose a certain type of procedure to help you with athletics? Did you have the choice first of all, and then kind of why did you choose that?
Yeah, so with childhood cancer, specifically bone cancer in children, it's very aggressive and they have to get the tumor out of the body. They can't leave it there. There's not a way to just do treatment and then be done. So I had to pick one of the 3 surgical options they gave me. The first one was what they called a limb salvage, which is where they basically they do a full knee replacement, and then they also do like a partial femur replacement. So it's basically the inside of the leg is pretty much a metal rod. The second option was just an above the knee amputation, which I would lose my knee in that situation. And I had to lose my knee just because that's where the tumor was invading. And then the third option is called a rotation plasty, which is basically where they take out the infected portion of your leg, which was my knee and my knee joint, and rotate the bottom portion 180 degrees and reattach it at the thigh. So basically, it gives my ankle the opportunity to be my knee joint by flipping it around backwards, and then I wear a prosthetic on the end of my leg to allow me to walk. So it basically gives me sort of like a makeshift knee joint. instead of having to have some sort of artificial knee joint, which would come with an above the knee amputation. And then a limb salvage just wasn't an option because there's with being 10, I was still growing, and just the pounding of sports would have broken it. I would have had to have all kinds of surgeries, and to me, in my 10-year-old head, the only option was a rotation plasty because it would give me the best opportunity to continue sports, and that's what I wanted to do.
How common is that procedure? How many people choose that procedure during facing what you were facing? Has it gotten more
At
common?
the time that I chose, not very many. It scared a lot of people away, and it still scares a lot of people away. But I feel like there has been sort of a surge of rotation plasties since my amputation. I think it's just grown in popularity, and also with social media and stuff like that, you can get word out there a little bit better. So there's a lot of rotation plasties I can think of now that I have direct contact with, but then it wasn't super common. My parents had to hunt a lot of people down to ask questions and do research.
Bailey, what was after coming out of the procedure, what was your recovery like and your rehab to a point where you could start participating, little by little in sports?
So I had my amputation, and then I still had to do another whole 10-week, 20-week round of chemotherapy afterwards because they had to make sure there weren't any small cancer cells somewhere else in my body that they couldn't see with the scans. So I actually did more chemo after I had my amputation than before, which slowed down healing processes, slowed down everything. So I couldn't really get up on a leg until I had finished chemo. But once chemo was over, it was a grind of physical therapy, of appointments, of everything. I did probably 2 to 3 days a week of physical therapy for an entire year until I really felt comfortable. We kind of slowed the PT down as soon as I felt like I was running in a way that I could keep up, in a way that worked for me and that it felt normal. But I think for me, feeling like I was back to where I was happy with was probably a full year of therapy.
So you played middle school sports after you came back. At what point did you try adaptive sports? Because I know how long did you play middle school sports, and then when did you kind of make the decision to switch to an adaptive sport?
So by the time I was done with chemo, it was 5th grade. So I was playing rec basketball. I was playing tennis. I was doing things like that. And then once I got into 6th grade, I started trying out for middle school teams. So I played volleyball with my middle school from 6th to 8th grade. I played tennis in 6th grade. I played basketball 6th and 7th grade. By 7th grade, though, basketball was getting pretty hard, just because people were getting faster, and no matter how hard I worked, I just wasn't getting faster at the rate that they were. So it was getting harder to keep up, and I was just working so hard to just get down to the end of the court that it was leaving me a little bit just kind of frustrated. So my parents actually found adapted athletics in general, not specifically wheelchair basketball. They ended up talking to a sitting volleyball player who played in the Paralympics and has won multiple gold medals. And she had the same surgery as I did. And she was like, I had a hard time making the transition over because I didn't use a wheelchair every day, and I didn't need it. And she played stand-up volleyball all the way through college. And then she was like, but this about adapted athletics and Paralympic sports allowed me to travel and have all of these opportunities that she wouldn't have had if she had continued to play with her able-bodied volleyball team. So my parents found somewhere for me to start playing wheelchair basketball. And basically, as soon as I got in the chair, I loved it. I fell in love with it. The playing field was even, and I really didn't ever look back. I did play volleyball through my freshman year of high school, but basketball just started to take over, so I had to quit volleyball just because eventually you've got to choose. And basketball, wheelchair basketball specifically, I loved it.
So how quickly after you started playing wheelchair basketball did it hit you, like one day, hey, I'm pretty good at this, Or did somebody tell you that? Did you just realize that you were better than the folks you were playing against? Like, when did it hit you that this is something that I think this may be my thing?
So the opportunity presented itself to go to a national team development camp. So it would be me going to the Olympic Training Center and then being coached by the coach that coaches the national team, but also just playing with people that are also in their developmental phase. So people that want to get into the pool, but probably aren't ready to try out yet. And so I decided to go. My dad kind of was like, you should go to this. And I said, okay, I guess so. So I went, not really knowing what to expect. The camp was good. The coach actually came up to me at the end and said, hey, I think you're really good. I think that you should come to tryouts in January for the national team. This was November at the time, and I was not expecting that. And I thought he was just inviting me to tryouts to get my feet in the water, kind of see the level of play that I needed to get to. And of course that's what he was doing, but I didn't have any idea that I would end up making the team in January and going to Worlds a year from when I had just gone to a development camp. So it all kind of happened really, really quickly. And then ever since then, being on the national team has allowed me to just continue to make huge strides in basketball, and also just travel to so many cool places and have so many cool experiences. But yeah, it kind of just sort of the opportunities presented itself, and I took a hold of them, I guess.
So, both your parents played college sports, correct? I think your dad, Patrick, played baseball, and your mom Tiffany played soccer. Is that correct?
Yes, she played soccer at Auburn, and then my dad played baseball at the Citadel.
So which one takes the most credit for your athleticism? I can look at your dad. It's got to be your mom, probably.
No, they like to fight over who takes the most credit, but they both did. And they're both my biggest fans as well. I think some people forget about my dad playing baseball a lot, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a college athlete too. Like, don't forget about me." But
that's great. Hey, Bailey, we talk about in Pure Athlete, we talk about 5 pillars that are really important for kids to develop in sports. And one of those pillars is grit, and the other pillar is belief. And belief is that whole mental toughness. And my guess is that you exhibit both of those in spades. But I'd like to hear a little bit about, the time before you started practicing with the national team, and you were kind of practicing on your own and developing those skills, and not only your basketball skills, but also learning to move a wheelchair, the way you have to. And tell us a little bit about your practice regiment and the effort that you had to put in to development.
It's definitely, especially when I was very new to the sport and jumping from playing like high school travel basketball to jumping immediately to a national team and not having anything in the middle, definitely presented a huge transition stage to training once a week with my team at home, and then a little bit on my own, to training every single day, twice as long as I was used to. But the desire to train and to get better and to push myself, and also to just, because I came in so young, and to be able to keep up with my more experienced teammates and my college level teammates when I was first starting, like, that was what was driving me to get better and to be better. And I don't do well at not being good at something, and so I wanted to be the best, and I still want to be the best, and I want to put myself up against people that are going to push me to be better. And so that was that's still how I approach my training. But my training regimen is intense. Like, now I play for a college team, so I'm at the University of Alabama. We train every single day as a team together. We go to tournaments together, and then I also have national team training that I do extra on the side, getting extra shots up, doing extra things to make sure that I'm taking those steps to be the best in the world, and to also push towards the goal of eventually winning gold in maybe Paris, hopefully Paris, but also possibly in a future Paralympics.
How long is a career? Like how old are the oldest people on the U.S. team?
It ranges, especially with wheelchair basketball. Your prime years are a little bit older because there's not as much pounding per se on your joints, even though it is hard on your shoulders. So our oldest right now, I think, is 39 or 40, and then our youngest is 18. So there's a broad age range, and I don't even notice it, and especially when you get on the court, like you're all teammates together and you're all playing together. But yeah, you can play for a long time. You can do multiple Paralympic cycles, presuming your body holds up to it and life circumstances. But there are a lot of opportunities for a long career.
Britt Bailey, I'm the athletic director at Providence Christian, and Bailey attended Providence Christian, and she's gone down in history as one of the most famous athletes at our school. And it's not only because of her talent, it's because of her character and her personality and her legendary work ethic. And I remember seeing a video, Bailey, of, I think you were practicing falling in your chair and getting back up. And that's part of the game in wheelchair basketball that people don't realize, just the core strength it probably takes that you've worked on for years to be able to do that. But it's really just, she's legendary in terms of our school. And we will always remember and always support her wherever she goes from here.
Well, in fact, Bailey, I'm also a member of Atlanta Athletic Club. And the few times that I have been in the gym, not nearly enough, but many, many times I have looked through the windows and seen Bailey out there on the basketball court, working by herself or with somebody else, just work. So yeah, it's a pretty impressive story. The other aspect I mentioned was belief and the whole mental toughness piece, which is, it's tough for all kids. It's sometimes to deal with, negative things that happen in sports. Tell me how you've overcome and continued to press on with the mental aspect of first of all your cancer. What's allowed you to maintain your commitment and belief in what you could achieve?
I think people forget about athletes a lot of the time. I think they only see a lot of the glory that comes with it, and they don't see how hard it is to balance everything, balance life, balance school, balance your sport, especially when your sport feels like it's a job. One of the best pieces of advice that I've ever been given is to never let basketball feel like never lose the love for basketball, because once you lose the love, you forget why you even started and why you're still doing it. And so I think remembering that, and remembering, when I'm pushing sprints by myself in the gym or whatever, in a hard game or training, and it just sucks to remember that I'm doing this because I love basketball, and I'm doing this because it brings me so much joy. And sometimes I think you can forget about that part of it, especially just as you move up in the levels. But I'm very interested in the mental side of the game as well. I think it's a huge part of it. And I'm actually going to school to become a sports psychologist. I'm a psychology major. And so that whole part of I've worked with a sports psychologist. I've been on teams that work with sports psychologists before. I think it's a huge part of developing your game, just as much physically as it is mentally being strong. So there's a lot of work put in on that side too, that a lot of people don't see by a lot of athletes.
Bailey, I know adaptive sports has grown tremendously in college athletics. Can you kind of take us through your recruiting experience and kind of why you chose the University of Alabama?
So I was looking at a lot of schools to play basketball, schools that offered me scholarships in some form or fashion. And I always said, I grew up an Auburn fan. My mom played soccer at Auburn. I grew up a diehard Auburn fan. I said I would never, ever go to Alabama. And then I went on my recruitment trip to Alabama, and it was hard to even think of anywhere else that I could be. It's just a place that has such a well developed adapted athletics program, and so much support behind the university, and from the university for what they're doing with the wheelchair basketball and wheelchair tennis programs, and just the possibility for more teams in the future. And our facility is just beautiful, and just everything that they were offering, it was way too hard to pass up. And it's just crazy how the tables turned, but Roll Tide all the way.
Is that tough for your mom to hear you say that?
I mean, I'm a junior now, so I think she's kind of grown on it. She always would say, I go here and it's just so hard to find. I look for things to hate, and I don't hate anything. So,
How does the college game compare to the international game in terms of just the level, obviously the level of talent, and in terms of, is there anything speed wise or technique wise that's different playing in the college game as opposed to playing in the Paralympics?
the international game is so much faster. I mean, there's even rules that make it faster. So our shot clock is shorter, and then this is true for able-bodied basketball. This is true for wheelchair basketball. Shot clock is shorter. The 3-point line is further out. The key is bigger. Like our 10 seconds in the backcourt, it's 8 seconds internationally. So everything about it is tailored to make that game faster, and just having the top players in every country, they're stronger, they're bigger, they're faster. So yeah, the international game is another level to college. But college is quick too. Like you keep stepping up the ladder. So high school, and then you get to it is a big jump from high school to college, and then college to national team level is definitely also a big step up.
So Bailey, I'm curious, what's your thing in basketball? What are you known for? Is it ball handling? Is it shooting? Is it all of the above? Is it defense?
I have a pretty good shot. I have a really pretty looking shot. That my parents also like to fight over who taught me how to shoot the ball like that. But I'm also really, really quick. And so my speed also makes me a target as well.
So I know you've had a lot of different types of coaches probably so far in your career, even though you're very young. You don't have to name names, but give us a coach that's kind of your favorite type of coach or your favorite coach, and then give us a coach that you haven't had a good experience with. And again, you don't have to name any names, but just kind of give a personality type, or what is somebody like, what type of coach motivates you the most?
I need a coach that is going to acknowledge how hard I'm working. It doesn't have to be a coach that gives me a lot of positive feedback all the time, except that I do thrive off of positive feedback. I just need them to recognize that I'm putting everything into this team and into me becoming a better athlete. And when they acknowledge that to me off the court, it means a lot to me and in what I'm doing. And it also just pushes me to work harder, versus coaches that I have had in the past that I feel like never acknowledge that, or use some sort of, I guess, their way of trying to motivate me by accusing me of not working hard enough or not doing enough for the team. That just drives me down, and it doesn't help me at all to grow. So I definitely need a coach that acknowledges that work ethic in me and what I'm doing.
I think that's interesting because, and we have a lot of coaches who will be watching, and I think the message to coaches is that people are wired different ways. And some people, negative reinforcement, really jacks them up and makes them play better and makes them play harder. And other people, it does just the opposite. And so, for you coaches out there, just try to get to know your players and know what makes them tick. And it's not one size fits all.
Bailey, we mentioned that you always wear number 43. Could you give us a little bit of a background of why you always wear that number?
Yes. So Philip Letzenkirchen, he was a Auburn football player. He was on the Auburn football team around the time that I was sick. And we actually ended up becoming friends. He would send me like game day pictures, and I would send him like pictures of me in my Auburn jersey, like rooting him on. And then our parents just started to form a friendship as well, and we were Phillips fans. I still talk to his dad a little bit, and he still brings me up when he speaks at Auburn and when he speaks on different college campuses. But Philip passed away in a drunk driving accident. And so I still wear his number 43 in honor of him, and I will always wear number 43.
That's awesome.
Well, and also if you could tell us a little about your involvement with Cure. I know you've done a lot of speaking engagements for Cure and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that organization and why it means so much to you?
Yeah, Cure Childhood Cancer. It's an organization that helps to not only raise funds for child cancer research and raises money in order to put into developing better treatments, but for children and for children's cancer specifically, but also they reach out to families in hospitals. They try and give a lot of support to them and to the children that are going through such a hard time. But I love what they do, and I love how hard they're working to do it. And so I've done some stuff for them as well, and want to continue doing some stuff for them.
I know they appreciate that. Well, this has been great. One question we always ask at the end that we really we've asked all of our guests is really if you could give one piece of advice to young athletes as they're pursuing their journey, whether it's an adaptive athlete or able-bodied athlete, what would it be?
I think I would say, going back to what I said earlier, don't forget why you started and how much you love it. Even embrace the suck and remember that you love it. You really do. Remember why you're doing it, and don't forget that, because as soon as it becomes a job that doesn't have any joy or pleasure to it, you lose your reason for doing it, no matter what level you're at. And so just remember how much you love the sport you're playing, because it is a big part of continuing and in that mental game as well. And also just the desire to get better comes from that as well.
Great.
So that sounds like a T-shirt to me. Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck. I heard it from somewhere. I didn't make it up at all, but I think
ETS.
I think it's great, because I think most of the time is the hard parts, and a lot of people only see the glory of winning a medal or winning a trophy, but there's a lot that goes into that too.
Well, Bailey, we are certainly super excited to watch your career unfold and the next games, which are in what year? Olympic Games? 24 in Paris. So we will keep our audience informed as that comes closer, and we probably love to have you back at that point, and share those experiences with us and show us your gold medal that I'm sure you'll bring back. But anyway, thanks so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it, and best of luck in the upcoming season. And we will see you soon.
Thanks, Bailey.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Jeff Rancourt here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.